Okay, so I think we are good now. So I said for us to open this file inside of our browser, all we do is we right click on the file and we click on copy path. So we copy the part of the file, and the part of the file is where that file is on our computer. And I'll click on copy path and I'll come to our browser and I'll paste the path. And you can see, let me extend this so that you can have a clearer picture of what we are doing. So you can see that, remember when I showed you the folder file system, I showed that there's a users folder, and inside of it there's this user, and then there is the desktop, and there's this folder, and then there's this file. You remember? If you remember, just answer in the chat section. So once I click on this, you see it should bring our file out. So remember what I did? Right click, copy the path, and then open it here. So let's go on to just reduce the width of our browser window. So now we have we are on our way to greatness, which greatness in this context is this particular file we are trying to work on here. So let's just open it. So we see that we did up to this point during the last class, using the small tags, and you guys did amazing with the HTML tags assignment. You actually see that there's a whole lot of tags. Some of them are now redundant. So what we are focusing on in this class is the latest version of HTML, which is HTML5. There used to be other versions of HTML before HTML5. We used to have HTML1 that was very limited and was a pain in the neck to write, and then we had that was a very long time, 1996 or thereabout. HTML1, we had HTML2, we had HTML 3.2, and then we had HTML4 and HTML5, and all of these have unique features that that they kind of have that makes them better than the subsequent ones or the previous ones. So HTML5 is what we are focusing on. So there are some tags that HTML5 has that HTML4 can't use. Okay, so that's that. So let me just reduce this again. So we did up to here. So now we are going to continue from this second paragraph. So of course you can guess whatever. So I will collapse this particular window, and I want to make my VS Code window kind of more bigger, and I do that by pressing Ctrl Shift plus. And it is quite painful to do because I think I might have to reduce. It is too big. You guys can still see it now, but
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So in this case, we now need. Okay, I was giving an example of character sets. That was when I wrote this. So let's close this. Okay. So we are going to create another paragraph. What we are trying to do is this particular aspect, this part of the document. So we need another paragraph tag, obviously, right? P, and then it closes. Then let's just copy the text we have here, which is this. Can anybody pronounce the first word? Quiz. That's fine. If you can pronounce it, no assignment for you after this class.
Saya for real. Okay.
Okay.
Kiskirutrum.
So you don't want to do assignment after this class? No.
Exactly.
Oh. Remember there when I would go to school, and maybe when I come back and my mom will say read and I will not answer. She will now call me when I say, don't you want to go to school again? Tell me which trade you want to go and learn. And I know that if I tell her I don't want to go to school again, I'm just dead, So, it's just like teasing you to want to say, okay, I don't want to go to school again. You say, so you are the one that has 2 words amongst all your siblings. So that's by the way. So when I say if you pronounce it well, you won't do an assignment after this class. So you just jump and you don't want to do assignment after this class. But you will do. Okay. So we have quiz, whatever you call it. So now we have a bit of a challenge here, because if you can notice, we also have some different character sets here. So let us just kind of finish the entire HTML structuring, then we'll worry about the colors and every other thing. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's okay. Oh God, why are we so having limited space on this document? So I'll just reduce the width of the document maybe to about 50% so that we can. Okay, I think it's better now. Okay, So the next thing, remember, one HTML tag, two children, head and body. Can you see how simple it is? Don't give your HTML more than one child. It cannot train them. Okay, so more than two children rather. Okay, so we'll have this, and then the next thing we want to have is, you can see we have something here. So can you just kind of give me an idea of how, based on the assignment of all the tasks you did, what can we use for this really? Because there are a couple of ways to go about that. It's just a matter of preference really. So how do we go about that? Anybody?
Div, like
Div.
break.
Div long.
Something like that. Oh, I think break should work. DBI or DBO.
So what exactly are we using the break for? What are we using the break for?
To break off from the last paragraph and start off another one.
Okay, talking about paragraph, is a paragraph. I said in terms of layout, we have two types of categorization for tags. I said we have block level, and we have inline.
Inline.
Yeah. So is a paragraph tag an inline tag or a block level tag?
A block level tag.
It's
a block level.
It's a block level element.
Yeah, it's a block level element. And the reason why we will not be needing any BR to break away from the paragraph is because by default the paragraph takes the entire width of the viewport, the screen. You get the point? So it breaks the line by itself because it doesn't allow anybody in its space. It just wants privacy. So our focus now is how do we achieve this? So we are not bothered about breaking from that line because the paragraph tag automatically breaks to the next line. So our focus now is how do we achieve this and how do we achieve the subsequent one. But for now, let's focus on this.
That one, I came across a tag called strong. I think we should use strong. Strong will do it.
Okay, strong. Strong sounds like a good idea. Let's see what strong can do. If strong is strong enough. Okay. You said strong. No, that's I actually wrote strong. So strong. So what's the text in it? Things to know about this cat. So what are the things to know? Okay, so let's remember I decided to disable autosave so that you can see how changes are being made on the fly. So but currently the last change actually got saved, so let's just reload because it's already in the browser. So it's supposed to be at the bottom of the page, and we see how this are ugly character set because we haven't refreshed. So we have things to know now, and it looks bold. Wow, well done, you did well. So we've sorted things to know, though we still have a little problem with things to know, but we'll bother about the things to know problem later. So the next thing here is what? We have a list of things to know. So how do we deal with the list from your knowledge of the assignment you did? Or your knowledge of from wherever you got it from? Okay.
Can I answer again?
We use the unordered list tag.
Unordered list tag. Yeah, because the unordered list tag actually helps you to create a list with bullet points. If it is an ordered list, it creates a list with numbers, meaning that it is ordered. So now how do we write an unordered list? Anybody help us in the chat session? Can you just be a witness? Don't write everything, just give me the boilerplate for an ordered list. Okay, UL. Yeah, that's nice. I saw the word. I saw the tag UL. So obviously the closing
Can
part.
anybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but not until now.
Okay, to create an unordered list, do I need to type the code in the chat? You just say it.
Type it in the chat.
Okay, you put up those tag of UL, and then that is the body, that is the parent. Then the children will now be list open and closing tag of list. Then we list the things to know about cat.
Okay, that's correct. But going forward, whenever we have a syntax answer like this, I think it's okay to just write it inside of the chat session for Google Meet so that we don't have clashes. Then I'll just kind of look at it and pick which one is the correct one. So I think the first correct answer is from Ajiboye Yetunde. So she won the quiz. What do we give to her? The whole landing page. So clap for yourself. Okay, clap for. Okay, so that's fine. So I'm just going to copy our code. So our code is becoming it's so relevant that I have to copy it. So do I have the license to copy it, please? Do you have the license to copy it? Okay, so I'm just copying. Yeah, so that you don't sue me for plagiarism. So we have the list item tag. Okay, so I will just save. So what is going to happen when I save? I guess nothing. There's nothing. We just have one bullet point and then nothing in front of it. That's because the list item tag should have children, and the children will be the unordered list tag rather should have children, and the children will be the items you want it to list, and that asks request for another kind of tag, and that's the li tag. So whatever I write in here, which is basically our things to know. So let us kind of go back and get the things to know in order. So okay, I think we are good. So here, things to know. The first thing to know is that this our cat right here says I am a good cat. So when I save that, you can see this this white circle means we have unsaved changes. When I save that and go back here, you are going to see that we have I am a good cat, and that looks good thanks to our code from Ajiboye Yetunde. Thank you very much, Ma, for the code. Okay, so the second item on the list is going to be I know no guy. So if you've read the book of John chapter 1 before, the word guile actually comes to mind about Nathaniel in scriptures. So I know no guile. He's Israelite without guile. Yeah. So we have the second one, so I know no guile. And then the third one says what? I am not an alter ego. And you know what an alter ego means now? In other words, I'm not the cat that a witch uses to do the dirty work. I'm just as pure as a dove. So I am not an alter ego. So now that we know 3 things about our cats, so what if it's in a case where we have like 100 things and want to know exactly how many things we've listed? Then we might need an ordered list. So the way to write an ordered list is very similar. So just remove the U and put the O, and then when you save and go back to your browser, you should see that the bullet point changes to numbers. Can you see that? So it's just a very small difference. The difference is just the U and the O. And you remember what I said about the end of my what is it called? My tag automatically corrects itself the moment I correct the opening one, and I said that's because of an extension I have. Is that correct? I have an extension that is called auto tag rename that actually renames the closing tag whenever I modify the opening tag. And while we are talking about extensions, I want us to actually download an extension that makes our life easier, because for every time we make a change to this file, we see a white circle at the top and we have to reload our page every time. So in web development, there's something they call hot reloading. And hot reloading is when you save a change and your browser is constantly listening. Are you listening to me? Listening to your text editor, that whenever there's a change in your text editor, your browser automatically reloads itself. So in Visual Studio Code, there's an extension that helps us with that kind of feature. And let's go over to the extensions tab. So you have your file, what's it called? Your Explorer tab here. You have the search tab, you have the source control tab, run, and you have extensions, which is more like this, and square shapes, and one is popping out. I don't know where it's running to. So here we are going to write live server, which is this. So this live server, you can see the icon very well, and you know there's you have what's it called? There's a recording. So when I post the recording, when out of the goodness of my heart, I decide to post the recording of this class. You know, so you just keep praying that God will touch my heart to post the recording. So I say that so that you can pay close attention to the class. So live server. So when you install live server here, I already have it installed. So you know it is already installed. So when you open yours in your Visual Studio Code, you are going to see a button to install it. So the moment you install it, you might just have to restart your text editor. So by the time you've done that, I can now come back here and close my browser window, and let us now open our HTML file with our file system. And in that case, we don't necessarily have to go back to copy this part again by right clicking on this file name. So I will close this particular window now and go back to here, and I will right click, and instead of going to copy part, I'm going to go to open with live server, and then it is going to open inside of our browser. And you can see that the address looks quite different, and this IP address you're seeing here is the same as saying a local host. So let me not go into all that complexity. Just know that this is now your new part. This is your new file part now, and you don't have to generate, you don't have to go and copy it. The moment you click right click and you do open with live server, you should see that on live in your browser, whichever active browser window you have on. And this is the interesting part. So let's say I want to, you know, the card has told us about itself, so I want to create one more what's it called, and you should watch this place closely. I want to create one more feature for our card. I'm going to say I'm not from your village people, you know. So I'm going to save it, and the moment I save it, you're going to see that the browser reloads and the change is automatically occurs here. I didn't have to come and reload it manually. Do you like that? So let us just for a minute just pray for the person that created live server, the live server extension, that God will be with them for making our lives easier. Okay, that's a joke, but you can still pray. Okay, so now we have the list. So let's go back to our Google Doc, and we have this others, you know, this other element here. They are all of these things are elements, basically. All of these things are elements. Everything that a tag contains, every single tag creates an element. So we have another element here. So what is this element and how do we create it? So for this kind of question now, you can use your audio and you can raise your hand, or maybe just talk. If nobody's talking, then you just become the first speaker. Or then when it's a syntax question, syntax related question, you just want to type it out. So who can tell us how to, you know, create this now?
Tags.
Yes?
Anchor tags.
Okay, anchor tags. Okay, let's try.
Yeah, anchor elements to link external pages, which is Facebook and Twitter from what I'm seeing on the yeah, it's Facebook and Twitter. So we are using anchor tag using ahref and then put the link there.
Now you are calling the syntax again. Okay, so we have this connect with me on. So how do we deal with that?
I think we'll have to add the connect with me first using the normal paragraph tag. Then in between the normal paragraph, after writing the text, before you close the normal paragraph tag, you then now open the anchor tag and include the Facebook link.
Yeah, that's correct. So this is what we do. And let me just give you a hint. Whenever you have a block of text to create that is not necessarily a header, then you should think of using a paragraph, especially when you see that there are different kinds of text inside a block. You get? So consider using a paragraph, just like when you are doing standard writing. Every time you move to a new block of text, it is a paragraph. Whenever you move to a new block of text, it becomes, it's a paragraph you're writing. You get? So you're going to, let's just go on to do that now. So remember I said the UL also, I must take emphasize at this point that the UL is also a block level element. And I won't have to be saying which one is block level, which one is not block level. You can just do your own research at your own time to find out which one is and which one is not. So let's create a paragraph. And then inside of our paragraph, we write our what? Connect with me on. Right? So the moment I save this, remember what I said, the browser is going to get that change for us. So we have it here. And you can see that the moment you create a paragraph, you kind of just have this automatic margin at the bottom of the paragraph. And then kind of everything just looks very good. Maybe not very good. Maybe you want to see something final. Okay, so we have connect with me on. Then like we've heard, we have what's it called? You create an anchor tag inside of this. And an anchor tag, like Gina has rightly said, is to create a linking. And it's really an hyperlink, and that's where the idea of hypertext come up. It's actually you creating a link to an external page wherever on the web. So we have an anchor tag, and I'll close the anchor tag so that for a moment we can talk about attributes again. Not Facebook or Facebook. Okay, Facebook. Yes, and then because we are in the same block of code, I can do space. And then what's it called? And yeah, another anchor tag, Twitter. So let's see how that looks after we save. So I save by every time I save, I press Ctrl S or Command S, depending on which operating system it is. So you can see that we have the anchor tag, but we don't have a link to it. It doesn't look blue like what we have here. So the reason for that is because, like the image tag we learned before, the anchor tag also expects a couple of attributes to be passed to it. So the image tag, remember, expected the source attribute and the auth attribute. You can remember. So for the anchor tag, it requires an href attribute, which is more like whatever href means. I've never decided to look into that before. But just know that href is going to be the link of the page you want this particular, Facebook text to go to when you click on it. So just say http :// okay, so by the time I come back, you see that our Facebook now looks like a link as against the Twitter that doesn't look like a link, and that's because we've added this href attribute. So on our Twitter text as well, we are also going to anchor tag, we're going to add that href to create a link to Twitter. So we're going to https ://Twitter. Somebody said it's Twitter, not Twitter. Anyhow, it's twitter.com. So, and I'll save it. And you can see that it also looks like a link now. So when I click on it, it goes to twitter.com. But I don't like that behavior. If you've ever visited a web page where when you click on a link on that web page, it takes you to another web page, like another tab. It opens another tab automatically. Have you ever seen that behavior before? Because most times webmasters or developers want to keep you on their site. They don't want you to click on this thing and you now forget about their site that referred you to the other site. That's not fair. You get the point. So they like to keep you on their site, because for SEO optimization and so on, the longer you stay on their site, the better it is for their search engine ranking. So that's an SEO tip. So when you start your blog, you use it. So you have another. So to create that, going to the a new tab effect, you have another attribute called target, and you want to target a blank page. If I can still remember how to do that, or maybe I'm wrong, whether it's underscore blank or just blank. Okay, can you see now? It goes to a new this thing, and yet our own website is still functional. The user has not left us. So the reason why you put this attribute is so that the user don't leave us. So at the moment, the user is still with us. So this other one doesn't have the target attribute. So when we click on it, it takes us away from our site. We don't want that behavior. So it's always good to try as much as possible to keep people on your site when you build your site, because you will be building your site. Prophecy, someone's supposed to say amen. Okay.
Amen.
You like ministry. Okay, so that's fine. So now I think we are done with the entire markup of this particular document. So now let's start bothering ourselves about how do we change this header to a different color? How do we change the subheader to a blue color? How do we make some of these things that we can see in between? And let me just zoom it in a little bit so that we can have more perspective. So we can see that here we have this nice orange color. Yeah. So now, how do we achieve that using our HTML? Because so far we've done a great job just creating our markup, and our markup looks nice. So at the moment, and I don't like the way this cat is staring at me. Okay, so at the moment we need to start trying to think about how do we style these stuffs here. So first of all, this has a color, and that color is more like an orange color. But we don't really have to bother about the color. If you can add any color, you can add any other color. Yeah. So the way we do that, basically in HTML, is also through an attribute. Remember what I said about attributes. For instance, if I say, what are the attributes of God? And I allow you guys to answer me, say, God is holy, God is pure, God is kind, God is merciful.
Sir, I'm sorry to take you back. I actually sent a message on the chat, but I don't think you saw it. I didn't really get the target attribute explanation. Yes.
Okay, that's fine. So, oh, sorry. I wasn't actually looking at that side. Yes, I was focused. Okay, so the target attribute, which is this one, is targeting a different what's it called? A different tab. You know, when you're browsing on your browser, you have different tabs. You can open multiple tabs on your browser. It wasn't always like that, but you can open multiple tabs. So now, when you have a website, and for instance on youtube.com, when YouTube shows you an ad about another site, the moment you click on that ad, you don't leave YouTube. YouTube actually opens that particular website that you want to visit on another browser tab. You get it? Like they take you to a new tab entirely. And the reason they do that is so that you can remain on their site. You get? So the way they do that is by using this target attribute, and they are targeting a blank tab. That is, don't open that page on this current tab. That is this link, this Facebook link. Don't open it on this current tab. Open it on a blank tab that is not this current one. So when you click on it, it takes you to a blank tab.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay, I get it. Thank you.
Okay, so does any other person have a question? Because we go so fast, and after
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir.
Okay.
I couldn't exactly pinpoint why after target equals blank, there is a closing bracket, then afterwards Facebook comes after, then there's another closing tag. There's no opening brackets. Sorry, there's no opening bracket. It just starts with Facebook again. If you can
you come again?
Talking about.
I don't get what you said.
After https facebook.com, then target equals blank. There's a closing bracket. Yeah, exactly. And then there's no opening bracket for Facebook.
There is.
I don't understand why it is like that.
This is the opening tag. Up to here.
No, I mean after blank.
After blank, this is the closing tag now.
Yes.
Yes. Then you write the text inside of the anchor tag. Then this is the closing tag here.
Okay.
This is the closing tag. You get? Can you see it now?
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, sir. So, Mr. Lawrence, I think the presentation is still on. It's probably your network, sir. Okay. So, I said, okay, let us start talking about this. Jesus. Okay, I was on this H1. So I said, I was talking about the attributes of God. Yeah. So an attribute actually refers to the characteristics, character X stuff again. Characteristics of a person, like the traits of a person. That's what an attribute is all about. So now when we talk about the HTML attribute, we are talking about the characteristics of an HTML element. Yeah. So an HTML element will have a couple of characteristics. Some will have some attributes, while those attributes are not available to the others. For instance, let us start with our image, because our image actually looks very, very wide at the moment. And we want to make it almost as small as this one, in as much as they are not the same images, but let's keep the dimensions smaller. So one of the attributes you can pass to an image tag to achieve that is the width attribute. And I'm just going to make that 100 pixels. And when I do that and save, you're actually going to see that the image becomes smaller. Can you see that now? And that's because of that width attribute. So I'm actually specifying to the browser that, okay, I want this image element to have an attribute of width. And this width attribute in particular is pertaining to only a couple of elements. For instance, the image, for instance, on your H1, you can't be talking about width per se. It doesn't make sense. You talk about font size and so on. So here we have width, and we can also set the height. There's also one height attribute. So we can do a height of 200 pixels, and that will look kind of ugly because it's going to stretch the image. Wow, our cat is changing form. So let me just make it 200 by 200, and let's call it a day. Okay, so now we have an attribute on our image. So the idea of attribute actually makes sense now. But you can't just write anything as attribute. There are standards to set attributes. There are standard attributes that an element can take or a tag can take. And there are attributes that certain tags cannot take. So you have to understand that. So now let us move to, because now we've been able to size our image down. At least it's almost like this. It's almost this size. And then let's go on to, let's leave the button for now because we don't have a button here. That button here, we decide what we want to do with it by ourselves, because then we use all our creative imaginations, our what's it called? Our creative prowess, to sort it out. So now let's talk about the cat header. That I'm the ideal cat. So the attribute we use to actually add styling to HTML element is the style attribute. There's a style attribute, and a lot of people like to refer to this as inline styling, because what you'll be writing, the syntax you are going to be writing inside of this style attribute is going to be CSS. So there are a couple of ways to add CSS to a file. The first one is to add it as an attribute. The second way is to add it at a block level using another tag called the style tag. And I know when you did your assignment, you probably saw a style tag. And the third way is to use an external CSS file. I shouldn't have said all of that. Now I feel bad for saying it. So we don't have to go into all of that. So now we have a style attribute on our HTML. And that style attribute is how we are going to, kind of make this guy look nice. This guy here is going to look nice. So we are going to kind of add this orange color. So the way you add color to a text, because now we are talking about CSS, and we are going to be doing proper CSS classes eventually. I just wanted to have the idea of structuring HTML elements, and now I think you have a clear idea of how to do that. HTML by itself is so limited. You can't make things fine. You can't design things. It just defines the structure. You just have to create the element first. Then we can now start talking about the styling. Can anybody see this presentation?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, sir, I think maybe you should check if my presentation is nested somehow, or maybe you should try and say something to see if we can hear you. Hello?
Yeah.
Sir? Okay, I think your mic is muted, sir. You can unmute and just say sorry.
Hello?
Okay, sir, I can hear you now.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much lost.
Wow.
I don't know where to navigate.
Okay, but the presentation is on. So I think
now I can see you. I don't know.
My face.
Yeah, I can see
No,
your
you
face.
shouldn't
now.
be seeing my face. I think you should look for the presentation. It's probably hidden somewhere. Are you on a desktop or mobile device, sir?
Desktop.
And it should be there, and I should be there because
so maybe I should have just used my mobile device.
Sir? Okay, maybe, sir.
I said maybe I should just use it.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure it will be much faster and then.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, guys. So I was talking about styling. So don't bother about
Sorry,
all of.
sir, I have a question.
Okay.
Why don't we style our CSS on another sheet rather than styling here, just to make the work readable?
Okay, the reason why we are doing that here is that we want to go one step at a time, and that we have not entered into CSS properly now. So this is the fundamental. As a matter of fact, I talked about HTML version. I talked about HTML1. HTML1 was a pain in the neck, like I said before. This is how you have to do everything. So let's start from here. And the reason why we talk about this now is because when we start doing CSS, there's something called Selector Precedence. So anything you style using an attribute, like the style attribute, has precedence over what you use some other kind of selectors for. So it's very okay that we go through all of these phases. And you can remember there are a lot of things we're actually covering now that is just to prepare us for what is to come. You get the point? Yeah, so it's one step at a time. Yeah, thank you very much, Gina, for that observation. So now let us fix this color. So how you add color to a text in HTML is by using this color. And you can see I already start getting suggestion. So the color and in CSS, let me actually talk about that a little bit. You have what they call property value pairs. That is, there will be a property pertaining to that element or to that CSS element you selected, and there will be a value for that property. For instance, you can have something like height. What is the value for height? Color. What is the value for color? So here we are talking about a property called color. So what is the value? And the way you separate property and value is using this colon sign. So you have property, then colon, and then space, or you might not put space, it doesn't really matter. Let's now write orange, and then you have to terminate the line using a semicolon. Yeah. So it will warn us and say inline style should not be used. Move styles to an external file. That is fine, but I'm just trying to show you the idea of what attribute does to an HTML document. And until we start CSS properly, we are just going to do it that way. So as you can see now, if I go over to my file, you see that cat, text is now having a different color compared to the others. And that's because we passed in a style attribute. Are you guys getting that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the next thing we are going to do is also target this your name and grade 7. And then your name, we are going to say style, and we're going to say what do we type to change the color again? What is the property?
Color.
Huh?
Color.
Color. Why are you saying it with low volume? Is it a confidence matter? So color, and then we pick a color of light blue, and then we save. And when we save that, you should see that we have a light blue color, a very ugly light blue color. Then we have this third one. We're also going to put color. The style attribute. Then we're going to write color, and watch the syntax closely, please. Then the color we are going to be using is going to be what's it called? It's still light blue. I think the same color. Or maybe we should make this one blue. Okay, remember I said always end the line with a semicolon. And you understand that when we have to add more than one property value pair. So the way you add more than one property value pair is that you use a semicolon to separate them. So I press and I save that. And when we come back here, you actually see that we have 3 of them having different colors right now. And that's because we used this style attribute to specify a property, a CSS property on that HTML element. So that makes sense. So now, Jesus. Okay, so I think this looks fine. We don't really have to do anything to this first paragraph. Everything looks standard and pure. So the next one is this particular one here, which is this second paragraph. So how do you already know how to put the space here. I said we use HTML entities, right? So we just go up here and copy these HTML entities we already put inside of this first this first paragraph, and we paste it inside of the second paragraph just to create that special space effect. That is that tab effect. Yeah, so now we have it. So now the next thing is for our quest query return. Yeah, so we are going to use the appropriate color, which is more like a dark orange or a reddish color, whatever that color is. I'm not an expert with colors, like I said before. So what we are going to do is, like if you did Microsoft Word, all you needed to do was just to right click on it and maybe just highlight it, then you go to your title bar and you choose a color you want to use. But in HTML it's slightly different. So remember what I said about inline elements. Inline elements can actually be used side by side with other elements. So now we have hello
sir, please, what you copied from the first paragraph to the second, I'm kind of confused. Please, can you?
Yeah, I think we mentioned that during the last class. I said this is an HTML element because HTML has no regard for white spaces. I talked about white space. You remember?
I'm new. I'm new.
For white spaces, that is, if you press tab or you create space like this in HTML, it doesn't recognize them in the browser. And to just show you that, let me just add the autosave feature. So this page is saved now. So when we go to the browser, it doesn't recognize this space you add here. So to add space in this manner for a paragraph, you have to use an HTML entity, which is what we did here. This is the HTML entity for space. There are HTML entities for a couple of things like the copyright sign and some other kind of symbols. You get it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's the idea. So now, can anybody just quickly tell us how we can add this color now to just this text in isolation? And I've given you a hint as to how you can do that. So how do we add this color just to this element and it doesn't affect our entire paragraph? Because obviously if we go to our paragraph tag and we do style and we add a color of, let's say, red, it is going to affect our entire paragraph, and that's not the behavior we want. You get? The behavior we want is that it affects just that particular those two texts alone and not the entire paragraph block. So how do we achieve that?
Hello, can you hear me?
No, not you. Why should it be you?
Okay, can I think we can put that word itself in an header. Probably we can just put yes, like we can give it not that I'm not use the word header, but we can I don't know if I should type the tag. I think maybe
you can type the tag and type it.
Okay.
Okay, while she's typing, does any other person have another idea? There are always so many ways to achieve the same thing, especially in HTML. Yeah, you can.
Sir,
I don't really know any tag per se.
You didn't do the assignment.
I studied the text.
Did you do the assignment, or you just copied and pasted the assignment?
Yes, I did.
And then you should know many tags.
We don't exactly go through like 94, like up to 94 tags. But what I think that we can do, isolate the text, isolate the text, then put it, then give it the color itself. I don't know if that will work.
So what about the anchor tag, like the a small letter A tag?
Is there a way to single that text out? Just single it out and give it
style it in isolation. Yes, that's what I mean.
Okay. Let's wait for the code.
Okay, I think Yetune is trying to type something. Please, you can go on. Or has she typed it? No, she hasn't.
Okay, I don't know, but from what I read, like for the tags, I think we can use the span tag and put the word. So we can, I think inside the span tag, we can then, because I don't know, I think we're going to define the particular word, and then we can then put the style attributes inside the span tag. While that particular word is like between the tag itself.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually very correct. And in this case, it's more like the most preferred kind of answer. Yeah. Because the span tag is an inline element, so it qualifies. Yeah. It's just a way of you putting an inline element inside of another element so that you can style that element in isolation. And you can see that in a wide range of applications. Like if you have a header tag, for instance, and like this our big cat header, if we want to maybe just isolate this I am and make it another color, a span tag is always a very good fix for that. So in this case, let's just go to our quest storm, or what's it called, and then let's copy out the text itself, and I will press Ctrl X to copy it, and I will just create, and let me try to shift this to this side so that we can see what we are doing. So I'll create a span tag, and I'll put my text inside of the span tag, and then when I save it, look at the browser, nothing happens. So why is it that nothing has happened yet?
Because you've not called any attributes.
Yeah, that's correct. It's because I haven't actually included any attribute on the span tag. So when I include a style attribute on the span tag, and I put a color of red, which is what it is actually, it is supposed to change to red. So you guys can see that it's now red. Is that amazing? Isn't that amazing? Yeah, it is amazing. I'm excited for that. So that's that about that kind of thing. So we have here actually suggesting that we use an H5 tag, which is also valid. So let's use an H5 tag and see what it looks like, because the H5 tag is small. You understand? It's not as big as the H1, so it's kind of going to be small. But the problem we have with that is that H tags, header tags, come with their own default styling. So it is going to put in some styling that we might not necessarily need. So let me just save that. And not also forget that the H5 tag is a block level element. So you can see what we got here. And when we do CSS, there's a way to actually convert block level elements to inline elements, but we are not looking at that for tonight. So you can see why H5 is not a very perfect fit for what we are trying to do. And you could also think about using something like a P tag. A P tag is not also a perfect fit for what we are trying to do, because a P tag is also a block level element. But whatever you have to use to solve this problem is any element that can take in text as a child, and that is an inline element, just like Laura has correctly said, and that is a span tag. So with a span tag, we have the exact behavior we are looking for. Isn't that? Like, that's the exact behavior we're looking at, right? Hello?
Hello,
Sure.
Yes,
please go over the span tag again. I didn't get how you added the color to the span.
Okay, the span tag, I added the color to the span tag just the same way I added color to any other tag. It is the same way. The style attribute, property, and value. You get the point? The style attribute, property, and value. So that's just the basic way to go about that. And then we are 45 minutes into this session. I just want us to finish this as soon as possible, because this is the last HTML class. After today, we are not talking about HTML anymore. So I will create I'm going to like, we didn't record the first class, but I did a makeup class where we recorded, but I'm not exactly satisfied with it, but that's fine. But I'm just going to drop the link for you guys to kind of go over it. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to drop the link, because what I'll do is whenever we finish a section like this, like when we are done with HTML, I will now release the replay for HTML, so that while we are waiting, because the next class is going to be on Monday, so in the meantime you can always go over the replays, ask all your questions on the Discord channel, and so on. You get the point? I think that's sensible. Yes. Okay, so let me go over that again. While we are still dealing with HTML, I might not send HTML replays, but I will send the HTML replays tonight, because tonight is the last time. HTML shouldn't take more than one time for you to actually go by. Most of the things you learn about HTML, we have to learn by reading by yourself. You get the point? Because I can't really teach you all the tags. I don't know if you get my point. You just have to study the tags by yourself and know which one is applicable. When you have a question, you ask, of course. So yesterday it's clear to you why the H5 tag cannot work in our case bar for what we are trying to do.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, H5 is block
Yes, sir.
level here. So the span tag is the perfect fit. And to add the style attribute is the same. It doesn't matter which tag you are trying to use. But you just have to be sure that whatever tag you are adding a property to, that property is valid for that tag. For instance, now there's a tag called div, and that div is not a text container per se. It is just more like a box. So if you are adding color and there's no text, the property is invalid. You get the point within that context. So you have to know which property is valid for a particular context. So the color property is valid because text is involved in the context of this span tag we used. Text is involved in the context of the H1 tag we used, but there are some properties that will not be available because of the kind of tag you're using. But just know that the style attribute is applicable to all HTML elements. You can use the style attribute on each and every one of them. But you just have to know the appropriate CSS properties to pass to them for you to be able to get the expected behavior. So the next thing we have to bother ourselves with is this nam egat dui. I wonder what language is that. So nam egat dui nam. Okay, I think I can't see the text. So if you don't see that text, I will just have to copy that text as it is and paste it in our code just for us to have that text inside of our own code. So I don't think we have, okay, I think we have nam kwan blah blah blah. So let me just use this element instead. So once again, what do we need? We need here you can see that this text is bold. This one is not bold. So here, what element do you think is most suitable for us to achieve what we want to do fast? And what we need to do is we need a bold text. We need to make the text bold, and we need to add a color of blue to it. So what HTML tag will be applicable for that case?
The B tag.
The what?
B tag.
The B tag.
Yeah, that's valid. The B tag is valid because the B tag is actually bold. It's for the B is for bold. So let's just pick this element. Let's cut it out. Ctrl X, and let's put B. And B, by the way, is an HTML4 syntax as far as I can remember, but it still works. So you can see the text is bolder now. And there's another way you can go about it. I think there's a bold text. No, is it bold or strong? No, it is not. It is not bold. The B is for bold, but there's a strong tag that simulates the exact same behavior. Can you see that? So strong and B do the exact same thing. So because B came from you guys, let's keep B. Okay, so now we've been able to get the bold effect. So let's worry about the color. So the color will be added by adding our favorite or the famous style attribute, because it's already famous in this document. So the style attribute, and we're going to add color, and then the color is going to be what? Let's use blue again, and then let's save it. And remember, when you're writing CSS, always end every property value pair with a semicolon. So you can see that we have a blue color here. So I think we are pretty much here on our document. Yeah, now so we go to these things to know. So in the things to know, we used a strong tag, but the challenge we have now is that things to know and the list item are actually starting on the same, like there's this an equal amount of space between from the edge of the paper, the left edge of the paper, and the things to know. The space that is from the edge of the paper to the things to know is equal to the space from the edge of the paper to the to each list item. Can you observe that?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do we add space to the side of an HTML element like this?
Sorry, I didn't get that question. Please, can you repeat yourself?
So
sir?
we need to add the space here, a space here from the edge of the paper to get to where this I am starts from. So how do we add that space? And that space basically is called margin. If you've done word processing before, it is called margin. So how do we add the margin here so that it starts from here? Basically.
Okay. In Microsoft Word, there's what they call margin. But
And that's what
this
we
one, can we, they have margin left, margin right, margin up and bottom. Is there a way that we can set margin left to 12 or margin right to 15 in HTML?
Yeah, there's always
That's
a
what
way.
I'm suggesting.
Everything is possible. The problem is
Okay,
how.
then
Okay, so can we add the div tag?
Okay.
margin.
Div tag to where exactly? Where are we adding the div tag to?
We are adding the div tag before the first paragraph.
Which first paragraph?
The paragraph before strong.
This paragraph ended here.
Oh, okay, sorry. We added the div tag before strong.
Okay. Div tag before strong. I have added it. Let me save it to see
So
whether something
the
will happen.
closing part of the div tag has to come under the list.
Okay, under the list, Control X. So let me come under the list and put it here. So I have put it here. Nothing still happens. So what do we do?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, who can help us with that, please?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Please go on.
I feel we should actually style it like we should create an alignment. According to my own knowledge, we should create an alignment like style, then align, maybe we align it to the left.
Align
That's what I
which
feel
one?
though. The things to know.
Okay, let's try that. Align to the left. Okay. So let's keep the div, right? Or we should remove the div.
We can keep the div. The div does not
Okay,
actually
the
change
div is
anything.
valuable. It took time to type it, so let's keep it. So we said a style. So we say what? Align. So how do you do text align? So we are not doing CSS, so I'll just write the property. So there's a property such as text align in CSS. And we can do either center, justify, left, right, start. So you said we should do left. Yeah? Left.
Yes,
right.
sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Nothing happens. Okay, let me just cut it there. The reason why nothing happens is because by default, every text is aligned to the left. The paper starts from left to right. You get the point. So let's try align right and see what will happen. Maybe to do the magic. Still doesn't do the magic. Where did we go wrong? Okay, so first of all, because we are using a strong tag, there's something called margin, like Samuel has rightly said in Microsoft Word. When you do margin, let's say left, which is the margin to the left side of the left side of the element. So, and in web development, there are different types of dimension. When we do CSS, we go into all of that in details. But we can now do something called maybe like let's give it a dimension of, let's say, 50 pixels. Pixels is one of the dimensions we use. Just like in normal standard measurement, you have what's it called? You have centimeter, inches, meters, and so on and so forth. So here we have added 50% margin left, and you can see that our element shifted, but shifted just farther than we expected it to. So we might have to do a little tweaking. I just want you to understand how the thinking of this whole thing is wired out. So let's do 40 pixels and save and see where that goes to. See, we are almost close. So let's do 35 pixels. So I think we are there. So now one of the questions you ask yourself is, why is it that the list item is actually having space from the beginning of the paper? Everything we've typed so far actually starts from the beginning. I said paper. It starts from the edge of the page. Everything, apart from this HTML entity we added here, everything starts from, but the list item somehow magically just adds space to itself. Can you see that? Can anybody tell us why?
I think because it's in that list.
Huh?
I think it's because it's inside another list. If it were not to be inside another list, to be aligned to the left automatically.
And what about the unordered list? Because every element obeyed the rule of start from the edge, but this one somehow doesn't obey the rule of start from the edge. And I don't want us to beat over that for too long because of time. The reason is because by default, every HTML element actually comes with some preset styles. You get the point? So in as much as we haven't said, you can see the UL tag now. We haven't done anything styled into it. You can see, right? We haven't styled it in any way. And remember, I added margin to strong, and we have added a margin of 35 pixels. And by that, now it has a style of 35 pixels of margin to the right of it. So let us inspect. What is that? So let us inspect the list item. So remember how we inspect. You right click and you click on inspect. So when we click on inspect, let me make this browser window a little bit bigger so that we can see what is going on here. So I'll go over to the list item, and then the list item is somewhere around where is it again? We lost our list item. Okay, somewhere around okay, I'll just go on and hover on top. So when you click on this cursor sign, you can hover on top of it. So you see that we have it here. It is here. Okay, we created the div, so it was hidden inside the div. I didn't quite remember. So when you look at this place, you will see that our list item has some styles applied to it by default, and we can't really do anything about these styles per se. It has a display of block. Remember, I told you it's a block level element by default. It has a list style of disk, that is this circle. You can actually change this circle to something else. It has a margin block start of 1 EM, margin blah 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 1 EM, padding of this and that. It has some default styling. So the reason why it has this space is when you come down here, you see the actual element. This is the actual element here. The UL element itself is this, and the dimension is 1242, which is the size of our window. If I increase the size of our window, that size will change. It changed to 1304. But that is by the way. But you can see that there's a box around every element in HTML. If I go over to the div, you see that there's a box around the div. This is the div. There's always a box around it. Every element is always in a box. So I'll go to the UL and show you that by default, there's a margin of 16 pixels to the top of it. And if I come here and double click on this, this number 16 here, and I delete it, and I change it to 0, and I press enter, it takes out that space. And I come underneath it and I also change this to 0. It also takes down the space underneath it that we were enjoying before. It will no longer be there. So there's no space under it anymore. And the reason why you can see this space is because the paragraph also has some default styling. And it has a margin of 16 pixels at the top. That's the paragraph tag, and 16 at the bottom. So you can see that by default, just using the correct tag gives you some default styling, like as a free gift. But sometimes those default styling can be a problem for you and you don't necessarily need them. So that's why we actually have our own style sheet and our own style attribute, so that we can begin to override the default behavior. Do you understand that? So now let's kind of minimize this. Do you understand what I explained so far?
Yep. Yes, I do.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Sir.
So, yeah. Okay. I thought that's a yes. Yes, it is a yes. It has to be a yes. So, we have here now the issue we're trying to tackle that actually made us go into all of these streams of going here and there, which is very important. It is actually a part of the lesson plan. So when I make digressions, it is a part of the lesson plan, and that's legit. It's not like digression, because I want to consciously do things the way where you have to we have to trick our minds to see and ask, why is it like this? So when we are trying to ask why it is like this, we kind of find out why it has to be like that. You get the point? So now we know why there's a space around our UL tag by default. It is because of the default styling that comes with every HTML element. And you can see here we still have a padding, and if you go to where is it again? Like the this box again, you see that you have a padding of 40 pixels to the right. So if I remove this padding, this space will automatically vanish. We won't have it anymore. So you see that now. So in order to make things consistent, you might have to remove the default behavior. So, but once I reload the page, everything I modified in our Chrome developer tool is going to vanish. So everything will go back to the way it was, because the style we removed was not from our code. We removed it from the browser. So once the browser reloads, it reloads the code, not what we did and modifications we did in the developer tool. That's quite wordy, but you will understand a bit. So what we want to do by default is we want to put all of these things on the same level. So we've been able to shift this by adding a margin left of 35 pixels. So this is here now. So it looks pretty much like this. Like it looks pretty much like this now. This one is here and it starts on the same level as these other ones. So here we have this one is bold. This text is bold now, and because we put it in a strong tag, it is also bold here. But one other thing is that there's no space in between things to know and here. At least if there is, it is not as big as what we have here. So I remember I told you that the reason why we have this space here is because by default the list item has a margin top. And let me just go over that again just to let you see it. I will expand the browser window and let you see what I mean by that. So when I go over the list item, I click on this cursor sign and I click over the list item. You can see that we have this, how do I show you that? There's this reddish area or brownish area at the top of the list item. That is the margin top, and it is 16 pixels at the moment. If I change it to 5 pixels, you will see that the space is going to reduce at the top. So you can see that now it reduces. If I change it to, let's say, 50 pixels, the space will increase drastically. So you can see that now. So that's what's coming to play here. So I will just close it and reload again. So what we want to do is on our unordered list, we want to add a style attribute, and the goal is to be able to remove the excess space in between here and here so that it can look like the space between here and here, which is not so much. It's about 5 pixels, a 5 pixel space. So we'll put the style attribute again on the UL, and we're going to add what? A margin top. And a margin top of 5 pixels is what we're going to add. And when we save it, you are going to see that the space reduces from how big it was before. Before it was I think it was 16. So this is what it looks like at 16. Just watch closely. Yeah, that's what it looks like at 16. Very wide. Can actually take in one more list item. So we need to manage our land properly. So when we save it now, you see that the space reduces, and maybe we should even reduce it a little bit more because it's still looking so wide. So let's change it to 2 pixels. So it reduces further now. Now let's go back to our Word document and see what else we have here. So now we have some text bold. We have this my two friends. So after things to know, we have a ordered list. This is an unordered list of 3 things. This is an ordered list of 2 things. So we now have my friends. So instead of having to write this all over again, let's just copy the strong tag, and paste it under the unordered list. That's what we are going to do. And instead of things to know, we are going to write my 2 friends. And sorry if that sounds like the name of your friends. I didn't mean for it to sound like that. My 2 friends. And don't try pronouncing the name because it's going to sound very familiar. So we have my two friends. So let's go back to our Word document. You see my two friends again, there again. And you can notice that we also have a space at the, like underneath the UL, we have a space here, which is, and in our Word document, there's no space at all, but in our own HTML, there's a space underneath it. So let's get rid of the space. So I said to get rid of the space at the top, we use margin top. So can anybody guess how to get rid of the space at the bottom?
Margin down or margin
bottom. Should be margin bottom.
Okay, margin bottom, that's correct. So remember I said to add multiple property value pairs to a style attribute, you have to use a semicolon to separate them. So I'll put a semicolon and I will still do margin bottom. And margin bottom is going to be, let's make it 2 pixels as well. And that's going to remove the space between the unordered list and my two friends. Not remove it, it reduced it. So it looks more like the space we have here on our document. So the two friends are going to be an ordered list. So we'll press enter and we have an OL, which is an ordered list, unlike the UL, which is an unordered list. So we have LI here and we put a space, and the first friend, what's the name of our first friend? Or it's first friend. The first friend is, I won't pronounce it. And the second friend is, and when we save it, you actually see that we have a list of 2 things. And remember, there's still a margin at the top, because by default, always remember, the UL attribute comes with some default styling. So I'm just going to come over here again, copy the styling we already have here, because my hands are paining me. I don't want to have to type it again. And you're going to be doing a lot of copying and pasting of one code from where you've already written it to another place. So I'll paste it and save, and it's going to reduce that space for us. So it has reduced the space, so it looks much more like this. So there's no space between the paragraph and tag. Jesus, I said tagger. I shouldn't have said tagger. So let's add a style. Let's add a style attribute, and the style attribute is going to be removing the margin top from the paragraph here. This is a paragraph, and by default, I also told that paragraphs have margin at the top. So let us remove the margin top of the paragraph, and let's change that to 2 pixels as well. And you can change that when, let's make it 3 pixels, just for you to know that it must not be 2 pixels. So I'll do that, and automatically there's no space between them, and then that's it. So now we have another challenge. We've been able to style from top to bottom what we have on that Word document, and it looks very similar, other than the fact that the fonts are quite different. And when we go to do CSS, we learn about how to add your own custom fonts, because by default we have this Times New Roman and it looks quite ugly, but we're not going to be dealing with that now. So but what I want us to look at now is that there's a margin at the left from top to bottom of the page. Can you notice that there's a margin on the page itself? Like there's a margin. Can you see that? So now how do we add a margin from the top to bottom? So we add that margin because every HTML element can take in attributes, but not all of them can take in the style attribute. So for us to be able to add a margin as such to every element, of course you know that. Of course you know. Jesus, that's what's God's will. What happened to 25 now? Okay. So yeah, you were saying something. Okay, so the way we add it is because the parent tag of all of these tags we've created so far. I'm talking about these tags from image, this image tag inside of the body tag, down to the last paragraph tag we created, because we have a couple of paragraphs. So the parent for them is the body tag, and let me be the one to announce to you that the body tag can also take the style attribute, so you can pass in styles to the attribute. So giving you that hint, it suggests to you that we can also pass a margin left to our body tag. Isn't that correct? So we are going to do a style attribute on the body tag, and we are going to add a margin left. And the margin left we are going to add about 100 pixels to make it a little bit bigger. So when we go back here, you're going to see the space beside the body tag, and When I open the browser window, I make it big, it looks so nice. So now this is our first HTML document. So if you found out I had any difficulty finishing that first assignment, you can now see how how you can be able to achieve it subsequently. Now, is everything clear to everybody? So before we go on to the next phase, can we do some quick question and answers? Then we go to the next phase, then end the class. Does anybody have any questions so far?
So the tag, I don't know. I should have gotten this a long time ago. To create spacing, like after grade 7,
After
Lauren
what?
starts the first.
After what?
After grade 7, Lauren starts the first paragraph. The spacing from the margin to where Lauren starts from, what is the tag? I actually don't know
This spacing.
the elements that you used. Yes. How do I create that spacing?
Okay, mean the space from here to here.
Oh, to start the paragraph, the spacing that starts the paragraph.
Okay, the spacing. Like I said,
Yes, ma'am.
HTML has no regard for white spaces. And what that means is that when you press space at the beginning of okay, let me show you what I mean. For instance, when you already have a text written like that, let me remove this stuff. This is an HTML entity, of course. So I'll just cut it and keep it in the clipboard. And when I go back to the browser, let me make the browser window small again. And when I save this, you're going to see that this space goes away. And if I decide to add that space, I will remove the auto save feature so that it doesn't save automatically, so that we can save it by ourselves. And sorry, I added the auto save feature so that I can save it automatically, because whenever I press Ctrl S, it's kind of, even if I put space, it kind of just brings it back to the beginning, kind of auto indents it for me. So I'll put in this space. There's auto save going on. You can see that our page is reloading, but that space doesn't show here. Can you see?
Yes, okay.
It doesn't show. And the reason why it doesn't show is that HTML has no regard for white spaces. You understand what I'm talking about? It has no regard for white spaces. It doesn't matter how many space you put in between elements. Can you see this one too? It doesn't matter how many spaces. HTML doesn't care. It only recognizes that one singular space that it is requesting from you. So any extra space you put is going to be overlooked. You get the point? So if we now need to add more than one space, we have to look at what they call HTML entities that create special kind of characters inside of HTML. And it is because of this meta tag that we have here called UTF-8, and I showed that inside of the makeup class. UTF-8 is more like a character group in a character encoding standard that only allows a specific number of characters, and by character I mean 0 to 9 and A to Z, then some symbols. Do you get the point? So space is not one of the characters encoded in UTF-8, in the UTF-8 standard. It is not allowed. It is not included. So if you want to add space, you have to use characters that are allowed inside UTF-8 to create that space by yourself. And that character we are using is this character. Just one of them creates an extra space for you. You don't need all of them actually. Just this one. This one, this particular one, is a space key pressed down. Like once you put this in your HTML, it adds space automatically. So HTML reads this text and it knows that it's an HTML entity. And it knows that this HTML entity is meant to add space to your paragraph or to wherever you want to add it. Do you get it? So now if you notice now there's a space behind the lorem now, just one space, because we added just this one HTML entity for space. If I remove this, you will see that the space behind, just watch this lorem closely. If I remove this, the space will be gone. Take a look at it. You see the space is gone.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so what we did was to do this several times to have as much space as we needed to create a tab in on the paragraph, which is what we did like this. It's the same character, we just kind of copied it over and over and over. You get the point?
Yes, sir. Please, how do we get that particular character?
Okay, I showed it in the first class, and what I did was to say, just go over to Google. If there's any character you are typing in HTML and you realize that the character is not showing, just say HTML entities or entity code for space, for instance. Okay, you can actually see, I think they have an HTML entity code for a snowman. I wonder what that looks like. Okay, so let's check that out. So the HTML entity actually just helps you create special characters inside your HTML document. So let's see what this snowman will look like if you add it to our HTML document. Where is that? No, it doesn't actually add it to it. So I think that's somebody becoming too creative. So Unicode character. So they are what's it called? Entity codes for several characters. So I'm just trying to find some characters for you. Okay, let me just go back to Google homepage and get some, default characters. HTML symbols. Okay, I said snowman. HTML entity codes. So there's one for and sometimes depending on the character set you're using, some of them might not necessarily work. So if we add this HTML entity code, for instance, which is this what's it called, and pound, that is #8 blah blah blah. Let's see what that will do to our HTML. So I'm just trying to tell you that when you use HTML entities, it kind of just creates special characters inside of your HTML document for you. And this one, for instance, should create us something as 129.180:. So let's see what that will create for us. So you see that it created something like this, and the reason why this is what it should create. It should so it is supposed to create, I don't know what symbol that is for in particular, but that's just like an entity code. But that's how you look up entity. Okay, I think there's one very easy one that we can actually look up. So that is always very standard. So HTML entity code for a copyright symbol. And you know that copyright sign that you always see at the bottom of browsers, like copyright 2020 and blah blah blah. So let's try and get that. So which is this symbol? So when I use this HTML entity code, it should generate that symbol for me. And if it doesn't generate it, then I know everything is wrong. So it should generate that for me. So where is it? Okay, so you can see that now. So just combining this UTF-8 characters, we got this sign. I don't have to know how to combine the characters. Just look it up on Google. You get the point. You're going to get it. So that's that about how we added space to the beginning of our paragraphs like this. You get it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is there any other question?
Okay, sir. I'm asking with regards to these things to know. So I want to ask, okay, so I noticed that to move it here, we used margin and all that.
Yeah.
But before when you asked, though I didn't say it then, but when you asked, what came to my head was, is there a possibility that rather than moving it using the style attribute, is there a possibility to use this character set for space in front of the word to move it?
Yes, you can, but it's going to be bad code. And you know why it's going to be bad code? Because when you do that, you do it that way, that means here at the point now, your element is actually starting from here. But when you use HTML entities to add the code, your element will start from here. Do you get the point? And that could trigger some unnecessary behavior. Because when you add margin, your margin is not necessarily a part of your element. You are just telling the browser that you need space. But if you add entity codes, your element is going to start from as far as this place. But that's not the behavior you're looking for. You want your element to start here, not here. Because the entity codes will still be a part of the element. Do you get the point?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And another thing is that that's not very scalable. And what I mean by not very scalable is that, okay, once you have 100 things to move, you keep doing HTML entities for all of them. It's going to turn into a as well for this one we have here. As it is, it's already looking annoying. Like when you just have this side of your code that like whenever anybody stumbles on it and they be like, "What is you get the point?" Like it doesn't look so good, and there are other ways to actually go about this. But because we are at the very basic level, that's why I'm actually showing you how to do it this way. You get the point?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So there's a recommendation we got when we're trying to shift this to the right, and that is the fact that we added a div. Do you see that? Yes. So we added a div, but at the moment we are not using the div to do anything. So now I want to talk about div and span and talk about it from the point of view of semantic and non-semantic tags. I don't know if you came across that when you were studying HTML tags. So there's something such as semantic tags, and there's something such as non-semantic tags. So for the next 3 minutes, I want you to kind of look it up on Google, what those terms mean, and when you come back, let us try and discuss it together for you to have a clear idea of it. So I'm going to mute my mic right now and leave you guys for the next 3 minutes. So this is 9:21. So by 9:24 or 25 thereabouts, because I don't know how many seconds we are into 21, we'll be back to kind of discuss it. That's what 30 minutes. No, we started at 7 minutes.
Sir, you said semantic what and non-semantic what?
Okay, let me write it again. Two more minutes. Is this down? This down is generator.
You every time want to be switching that thing on and off every time. Why are you going to switch off that?
This is not about 10.
I know it's 10 now. They sent the letter.
You know, that's same letter. I'm not saying anything. Okay, has anybody found anything?
Sorry, what are we looking for?
Eh? It's in the chat.
So I quickly ran to military schools to know more about these semantic and non-semantic. Under semantic, I think we have table, form, and article. Under non-semantic, we have the diff and span. The ones we just used.
Okay. Under semantic, you say we have what?
Under semantic, we have form, article. While under non-semantic, we have diff and span. If you want to just use them.
Okay, the semantic tags are actually way more than that. Because with HTML5, they actually is there any other
For semantic are those documents that have kind of a proper meaning, like if they're used.
I can't hear you very well, please.
I think semantic are those elements that have like a meaning that if they're used, they alter the program. Unlike the semantic, they don't have.
I can't actually hear what you're saying. Can anybody hear me? There's this noise in your background.
I said semantic are those elements that have like a proper meaning that if they are used in the program, they alter the program. But the non-semantic that are used, they need to be add some attributes for them to alter the program. So that is a different approach from both of them.
Okay, that makes sense. Any other person?
Let me just talk on the semantic HTML tag only. It actually means there are those HTML tags that meet that have a meaning to both the developer and the computer or the system or the machine. That is just what I want to say about it. Why? Okay, let me see the non-semantic tag. They are like, for example, of non-semantic tag are the span tag and the div tag. They actually have all meaning or essence when they are used. That is what I can actually say.
Okay. So all of that makes sense. So the core idea behind semantic and non-semantic is that semantic tags have meaning. You get their definition in the code tells the browser how they are meant to be rendered and the kind of elements they should contain. You get, and this semantics are actually something that came alive with HTML5 in particular. When you inspect the web page, you see things like article, aside, detail, nav, and so on, and table, and all of those kind of elements. That is the name of the element itself tells you what the element will do. But for non-semantics, you have span and div, and when you see a span or a div, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. You can use them for anything whatsoever. So it's not really a matter of styling or whatever. It's just a matter of, okay, because this tag is a table, the browser knows by default that, okay, this tag, because the user used a semantic tag and the name of that tag is table, that tag will be rendered as a table in the browser. So semantic tags instruct the browser to render an element in certain default ways. I don't know if you understand what I mean by that. So just simply put, semantic tags have meaning, while non-semantic tags don't have meaning. And examples of semantic tags, there are actually a couple of them, about I think 10 to 14 or thereabout. We have article, aside, details, caption, we have figure, we have footer, we have form, we have header, main,
Table,
mark, nav, table, section. So all of them, when you actually hear them, okay, for example, if you see a section tag on an HTML document, you will know somehow that, okay, this is a new section on this page. Even you as a user will know. But the semantic tags are actually used to instruct the browser on how specific elements are supposed to be rendered and what those elements are supposed to do on the browser. While non-semantic tags don't have meaning, you can use them for whatsoever. The browser will just render them and attach no meaning to them, no strings attached. So that's the difference between semantic and non-semantic tags. So the reason why I actually held on to this div the other time was because I actually want to introduce you to the world of semantic and non-semantic tags, which is div. We're already using span. And you can see I told you the other time that because we're using this span is just being rendered. It has nothing attached to it. Until we told the browser that we want a color of red, it actually fits into the entire flow of the paragraph. It didn't change anything. You remember that, like, before we added the color red, you can actually tell that there's a different element nested inside of the paragraph. You remember? So there's no special handling of that tag. The browser just handled it without any special treatment. But when you use semantic tags, the browser gives them special treatment because those tags come with meaning and they come with special, default behavior. And those things also help you when you are doing this like SEO, how you want search engine to look up your web page. You have to use good semantics for the search engine crawlers to be able to, crawl your website efficiently and, for you to get the most out of your search engine optimization endeavors. So now we are using this div, and I just want to show you that basically what the semantic tag does, basically majority of them, what they do for you is to actually kind of enclose things for you and to group a group of other elements together. For instance, you can see that inside of this one div, we have other elements like strong UL, we have another strong, we have OL, we have another strong, we have a couple of elements. We have one, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 elements inside of this one div. And what that means is that we can actually do a couple of things to this div that will impact on the other elements. So let me reduce the browser window, and I just want to show you what I mean by that. So because this div is enclosing this strong tag, the UL tag, this other strong tag, and the OL tag, so I will just pass a background color. Sorry, I'll pass a style attribute to the div, and I will say style like we've been doing before. And the property I'm going to pass to it now is background color. And the color we're going to be using is going to be gray. And I'm using gray so that we can see what that will look like. So you can see now that we grouped a couple of things together, and we just passed a property to just one element, which is this div. And it's kind of just affected every other thing that is contained inside of it. So that gives you an example of how you can group things together and carry out certain specific styling on them. Do you understand that? So that's that for the
Yes,
div
sir.
tag. Yeah. But because it's a div tag, there's really nothing, the browser has to do than to just render it. But one of the semantic tags we can be looking at is the semantic tag called section. And when I use a section tag, you don't necessarily see any difference on the page. But deep inside the core of the browser, it knows that this is a different section. When you use a div, the browser does not treat that section as a different section. It doesn't identify it specially. But when you use a section tag, the browser actually isolates that section and sees it as, the idea of semantic is just think about the idea of meaning. That tag has a meaning, and the browser interprets the meaning to every other thing that will be using that browser, including search engine optimizers, web crawlers, and so on. There's a meaning attached to that element. You get the point? Like the H1 tag too also has a meaning. And that's where they tell you that for you to get the most out of search engine sometimes, or search engine optimization sometimes, you have to pay attention to what your H1 tag is saying. Because that your H1 tag is like one of the first things that web crawlers will look at. Whatever you put inside the H1 tag is what the web crawlers will, they give a deeper meaning to it about the content of your page. And it is advised that when you are trying to get good SEO, you don't use more than one H1 tag on an entire web page. So there's a reason for that. Basically, the reason for most of those things is semantics. Semantics is all about meaning. These tags have a special meaning. The table tag is a semantic tag. It has a meaning. There's another tag I want to show you that is a semantic tag. Let me just undo this and make it a div again. So you can see what you can use a div to do now. So let me go over to the image tag. For you to, like there's a particular kind of, tag you wrap an image around, and that is another semantic tag called the figure tag. So when you use a figure tag and you put your image inside of a figure tag, you see it still renders it. But let's take a closer look and inspect the page. So I just want to inspect that element. So this is the image element, this is the figure element. You see that by default, the figure element gives the image element some margin around it. And remember that the image element is an inline element, but the figure actually took the entire block. It is a block level element. So it sees that what? Your image now is inside of a figure tag, and the figure tag is a block level element. It doesn't necessarily show in the browser, but when you are dealing with like web crawlers or so on, when it sees the figure tag, it kind of knows that okay, there will be an image. Your browser knows automatically that inside of the figure tag there's going to be an image, and it does every form of optimization the best way it can handle them for you. So you use semantic tags to talk to your browser to render or treat specific elements in specific ways. Does that make any sense? For instance, let's say you want to have a navigation bar on your page, like a nav bar. I know those are the exciting things that we kind of going to start looking at. You can use a div to create a navigation bar, but it makes more sense if you use a nav to create a navigation bar. These two will not complain. You can put the same kind of element here for your navigation bar and put the same element here for your navigation bar, and decide to stick with this first one and just delete the second one. But this second one is more meaningful within the context of how the browser interprets your document, your HTML document, as compared to just using your div. Do you get the point? So that's the idea behind semantics and non-semantics. So in terms of how browsers interpret HTML elements, they are grouped into semantic elements and non-semantic elements. And in terms of how elements are laid out on the browser, we have inline elements and block level elements. So I think those are the last couple of things I'm going to leave you with within the context of our HTML class. So I think we've spent about 2 hours on this class, and it is the point where we actually say good night to one another, because I am so tired. I've had a very long day, and I'm sure that most of you are also tired. Some of you have been to work since morning, some of you have been to class since morning, and this is a very good time for us to call it a day. So if you sleep by 9:30, you should wake up around 6 o'clock. That means you've gotten more than how many hours? You've gotten more than the average amount of sleep you should get per day. Somebody says if you sleep more than 8 hours per day, you are a dead man. I don't believe that. By the way, that's just a saying. So I think that's pretty much it. So by the way, sometimes I sleep more than 8 hours and I'm not dead. So that's it. So do you have any question at this point or any contributions?
Sir, I'm pretty new to the class. I don't know if I can get the previous classes.
The previous classes, the problem is that the first class we had, we didn't record it. But we now did a makeup class that was recorded, but it was not as detailed as the first class. So what I'm going to do is, since we are done with HTML today, and I beg you guys, the assignment I'm going to give to you tonight, in the name of God, I beseech you, do that assignment. And before Monday, I'm going to make sure you submit it even before Monday. Make sure you submit it so that I can do every correction, so that from Monday we enter into CSS. There's a long journey ahead of us, and I want us to make sure that by the time we are done with the basics of HTML and CSS, we can now start building real-time projects. Do you get that? So we will not be doing semantic, non-semantic, block level, inline. Read all of those things by yourself. And if you need resources to read up and have a clear understanding, I can drop some resources for you. Please read everything up. I'll be dropping the video links to read them up as I watch the videos. Wherever it's not clear, just watch everything. And if you have any questions, please ask in the Discord channel. I can't, the DMs are becoming too many. I can't respond to every one of them. So if you leave it on the Discord, some other persons that have solutions to what you're asking can easily answer. And if you've not joined the Discord as well, I'm going to leave the link on the group. Yeah, okay, let me actually help mute him. Okay, so that's just the idea. So let's read up everything. It's not actually difficult. I believe this new assignment I'm going to be giving to you, when you do that assignment, you're actually going to have a very good understanding of what of how to structure a web page using HTML. And HTML, honestly, do you guys think it's such a big deal to write HTML? It's not a big deal. It's very easy, actually. Abi, though you might be having some kind of, okay, you don't get this one, but you can actually see that the overall idea is very, very simple. Isn't that true?
Yes, it's true, sir.
Yes, so
It's
that's
very simple. As well as we shouldn't even have 2 classes for it. I just wanted us to, I wanted to cover everything possible in those 2 classes. So that's the idea. So remember, as a quick recap, the building block rather for every website is what? The web pages. And the building block for every web page is what? An HTML document. And the building block for an HTML document are HTML tags. You get the point? So tags make up an HTML document. An HTML document is an HTML page. And a collection of HTML pages is what you refer to as a website. So with what you have right now, you actually have one of the most fundamental and most in-demand skills in the web development space and in the entire world of tech, because apps will never stop to be open or be created for browsers to read them. Even before we do mobile app, there will always be a desktop app first. Like that's the first go-to place. It is more like one of the most useful tools to access the internet. You get the point. So try as much as possible to go over them and do the assignment, I believe, because I'm going to, maybe I will rest a little bit tonight. By tomorrow morning and thereabout, I'm going to create the new assignment I want us to do. It might be a little bit more complex, but it will not be anything beyond what we've learned so far. You can, you can trust that that's how it's going to be. So remember, we use Visual Studio Code for our class. Whenever you're doing your extra practice, use Visual Studio Code. But for the assignment, please use Replit. So if you have a question, you can go on.
Sir, please scroll through your codes. I want to verify that it tallies with mine.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So I have a suggestion. Please, can you screenshot the codes and maybe paste it on the WhatsApp group that will help us reference and will help me read more and understand how some things get to be. Just help us screenshot it and paste it to the WhatsApp group.
Okay, I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to create a text document, and inside of the text document, I'm going to leave the code for you. There's something actually called GitHub, and I think over time I'm actually going to teach you guys how to check it out, because I know a lot of people are new to it. Some of you here might know about GitHub, but some people might not know, and it might bring about unnecessary complexity if I try to start bringing up the idea of GitHub. So one other thing I can do is, if I give you the assignment on Replit, I can actually paste this code as a guide inside of the assignment instruction. Does that work?
Yes, it will work, but if we don't want to be in the assignment environment, maybe we want to read up, we can always pick up the code as an image on WhatsApp and be looking at it as an image and just understanding the line.
But you know what? I'll put it on Replit. If you now need it as an image, you go and snap the image by yourself. How about that? How about that? Yeah, I think that works.
Okay. My laptop can always do screenshots. I can screenshot.
Yeah, so that's it. So, is everybody okay? Yeah, that's true. And then, okay, I will just come up with something like, okay, don't worry, I'll come up with something for submitting the code. I just got an idea from my friend. He's also in the class. He's a senior backend engineer. Okay, but he doesn't want to be revealed yet. Yeah. So let's just keep going. There's a lot of exciting things to do during the course of this training. Like, trust me, there's a whole lot of nice things to build. Like, and one of the things I've shown you a couple of things I want us to actually work on together. Okay, let me just show you this one, just to keep you ready and happy. So, if the stars were so In fact, let me get rid of this from here so you don't start peeping into my lesson notes. I can see. Okay, I can't actually stop presenting, so I'm just trying to get what's it called? I'm trying to get, and for those of you that didn't do the assignment, well done. God will keep helping you. Though some people actually had a great difficulty trying to sort it out, and I understand, but there are some that some people actually tried, but some people didn't even try at all. They didn't even open the replit. They didn't open the replit at all, but there are people that actually opened, but they didn't quite get it, which is understandable. But some people, since that first class, is that 0 that is on the replit first, that's not fair. So let me bring out the first stuff I want us to. Okay. So by the time we are done with our HTML and CSS, the first hands-on project we are going to be building is going to be this guy right here. And what is this now? So it's going to be, let me just drag it over here. So it's going to be this. So we're going to be building this as our first project. But if you don't do it, we keep doing this cat kind of project. That's what we do for the 6 weeks. We keep doing, if you are like, but so let's just try and, let's try and follow up with the classes, do your assignment and so on. So let me still check the replit and show you that some people indeed haven't done the assignment. Okay, I got new submissions. And I'm going to be taking the assignment out tonight, so there's no need to even try to do it anymore. So you see, we have 22 people started the assignment, 11 people submitted the assignment. 22 started, but they didn't finish. And about 9 others didn't even bother. They didn't even open the replit, whatever it is. But that's fine. And one other thing I want us to be able to do is to be having groups, so that when I give you a project to do, you can we can have group of 4, and then in the group of 4 we have we have like 5 group of 4, or a group of 3 or something like that, so that you guys can just do the project together. I think that makes so much sense. That kind of model. And if we keep having redundant members, it is very hard to create that kind of grouping system. So what we might do eventually is we can just create a group from off the regular people from the class. Because definitely people will always be excited when they see free code class on your WhatsApp status. Everybody wants to join, and eventually everybody has excuses. But that's fine. Thank you very much for being in the class. Have you been excited so far? Have you been enjoying yourself?
Yes, I have. I've been enjoying myself.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So you believe you can do it?
Yes.
It's not hard. Yeah. Very easy. Piece of cake. So thank you very much, guys. I think that's it for tonight. So good night. No more questions, right? So we can say good night to one another. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good night.